Lauren. Hello and welcome to the 2010 Wilmington Town Election Results Show. My name is Stephen Higgins and I'll be your host tonight. It's about 15 minutes to 8 o'clock, so if you haven't gotten a chance to get out and vote yet, please do so because the polls are going to close in about 15 minutes. Joining me tonight in studio is local political analyst Carl Sagel. Carl, thanks for joining me tonight.
Thanks for having me.
How you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good. Also, we have Don Laird standing by at room 9 down at Town Hall. He's going to be giving us live results when Town Clerk Sharon George comes out, probably about 8:30, and reads the results of today's election. And he's also going to be there in the meantime gathering local feelings of the events of today and maybe anything else that might be on people's minds down there. But before we go to Don, I'd like to talk about today's races. In the first race, we do have the selectmen's race. There are 4 people for 2 seats. So the first two, the incumbents, Mike Newhouse and Lou Cimaglia.
Yes, well, Mike Newhouse has been a selectman for several terms. He's certainly he's a veteran of the process. Before that, he was also a town attorney. So he is certainly quite familiar with politics in town and the process. Lou Cimaglia has been selectman for the last 3 years. Before that, he also worked with the town. He's the veterans agent, so he's quite familiar with Wilmington town politics as well. So both incumbents have quite a bit of experience between them.
Yes, and we also have 2 challengers, Dan Murphy and Mark Nelson. What can you tell us about those 2 guys?
Well, Mark Nelson is a developer in town. He's been in town for quite some time, and he's been quite familiar with town politics. He's run for selectman in the past, and he is also very familiar with Wilmington politics. So he's a veteran of the system as well. Dan Murphy, on the other hand, is a relative newcomer to politics in Wilmington, and to the best of my knowledge, hasn't had any public offices before, but for those that are looking for to come up with a clean slate and go with some new blood, he's the man.
Well, that's great. We also have 3 other elections, 3 other offices for election today, which is first up, we'll talk about the school committee. There are 3 seats, 3 people running. We have incumbent Margaret Kane, also known as Peggy, and 2 newcomers, Kathleen Carroll and Robert Hayes.
On the school committee, yes.
On the school committee.
And the school committee doesn't have any contested seats this time. There's been some turnover due to some retirements. People have been to their public service and then moved on. But I believe that the school committee is in good hands. So.
Right, and to that, I'd like to say thank you to Joan Duffy. 12 years on the school committee. That's a lot of commitment, a lot of time. So that was that's a great time. So enjoy your time off, please. And for the Housing Authority, we have Leona Bombard, and for the Shawsheen School Committee, once again, Robert Peterson.
Robert Peterson, School Committee, the Shawsheen School Committee, he's been there as long as I can remember, and I don't know if he's had contested situations in the past, but he certainly is a veteran to that seat, knows it very well. As far as the Housing Authority is concerned, I'm not familiar with the particular candidate, but I wish you luck.
Good. Well, apparently we're getting a pretty good turnout for elections. As of 6 o'clock tonight, we had roughly 11% of the voters come out. That translates into just over 1,500 people coming out. So it's looking like we're getting a pretty good turnout.
That sounds good.
And I'd like to remind everyone, next Saturday is the Wilmington Town meeting. Starts 10:30 at the high school auditorium, high school gym.
Right.
And we do need a quorum to get going. So hopefully everyone can get out there on time so we can get the meeting underway.
And a quorum, I believe, is 150 people. I encourage everyone to come down, make your voice heard. It's nice to watch it on television, but it's even nicer to be there in the auditorium and get your voice.
Well, yeah, everyone needs to have their voice heard.
Exactly.
And speaking of that, I believe there's going to be a hot topic issue, and that would be warrant Article 10, the feasibility study for the high school.
I agree. That seems to be the big dog in the room.
It's a lot of money that we need to appropriate. Although I know the town manager did say that it would come out of free cash.
I'm not sure exactly how it's going to be funded. I thought there was also some matching funds or some state funds involved in the. I believe it's over $1 million for the feasibility study, but it's a major undertaking for the town. It's certainly time to at least have something analyzed, but also I believe there's a whole pecking order. There's a whole hierarchy of things that need to be done in order to apply for state funds. And if a new high school is going to be built, it's going to take a great deal of money, and certainly we're going to want as much assistance from the state as we can get. And so you have to do what they need done.
Yeah, that is correct. The MSBA, or the Mass School Building Authority, does have a certain set of criteria that you have to follow to get their matching funds. And the next step that we have to follow is a feasibility study. Now, the feasibility study isn't, you're going to get a new high school and this is what it is. The feasibility study is just that. We're going to see exactly what it's going to take to bring our current school up to current codes, laws, and standards for the children of the town. And that's, we really need the study to happen.
Excellent, excellent.
And there's a few other hot topics down at Warren Article. Anything you'd care to comment on?
Well, no, actually, I was going to talk about the election. This is election night. The election's closed in about 8 minutes.
Well, let's talk more about the election.
As your political analyst, I thought I'd make some prognostication and decide who I think is going to win in the contested races.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, there you go. I'm going to take this blank piece of paper and I'm going to write down
You're not going to prognosticate on the school committee, right?
No, on the school committee.
Okay, all right.
On the school committee, I think I know who's going to win. And I'm going to put this in here because I certainly don't want anyone to know about it before the polls close in several minutes. But I believe I know who's going to win.
Is there a wager? Do I sense a wager that you feel that confident you know who's going to win?
I'm confident enough. I'll take a wager with you.
2 seats, 4 people.
A 50-50 shot.
50-50 shot.
What do
Okay,
you want
what's
to
the wager?
What do you want to bet?
I'm thinking if you lose, you have to ride the Segway around town for 1 week with no hat.
No hat.
No hat. None at all. Rain, snow, sleet.
I'm confident in mine, but if I am right, you ride the Segway around for a week in any hat that I choose.
From my hat collection?
From my hat collection.
All right, you got it.
Fair enough.
Well, looks like Dawn is ready for us down at Town Hall, so let's go see what Dawn has for us.
Hello, guys. Can you hear me? No, they can't. With me right now is Mario Marchese, who is on the school committee, and he will be running for state rep soon. Just like they were implying a minute ago, the hot topic in Wilmington right now, the new school. They're proposing to build a new high school, and right now it's a feasibility study. Care to comment on that?
Absolutely. The feasibility study is something that the town of Wilmington needs. It's going to help us determine what exactly we're going to need to build a new high school in terms of what size building that we're going to need, whether or not we need a renovation or a brand new construction. And what this will do, feasibility study, will get us. It'll put a project manager on the job. It'll get us, allow us to hire an architect and take us from conceptual to schematic design. So that way, they will have a set of designs so that we know whether or not this building is going to work and whether or not it's going to meet the MSBA standards.
Do you have any gut feelings about the whole thing? Do you think it ought to be built or not ought to be built?
Right now, from what I've seen through the high school, I've actually visited the high school a couple of times and gone through it with the principal. And from what I've seen, yes, I do believe that we do need a high school, either that or a renovation to some extent. Right now, the building itself doesn't work programmatically right now for the students. The science labs are way outdated, and there's just not enough space. Right now, I believe we have about 30 teachers that actually float around and do not have their own classroom right now. And to say that in this day right now, it's pretty much a sad fact for Wilmington, because we have a state-of-the-art middle school and we have kids transitioning from 8th grade to 9th grade, and they're going from state-of-the-art back to 50 years ago. So I just don't think it's fair for our children.
The Accreditation Bureau came through Wilmington recently, and they did pretty good for as old as the building is. However,
well, we don't have the final report yet. The NEASC said they'll probably come back in about 4 or 5 months with the report. But we know that the building itself is something that they are going to get us on. So it's something that we did point out in our report to them.
And while we're talking about schools, how about an issue about bullying? Care to comment on that?
Absolutely. This is something that's near and dear to my heart. We had a situation a while back in the middle school regarding cyberbullying. Unfortunately, the policies that we had in place, we really couldn't deal with it because it was outside the parameters of the school itself. Right now, on the Hill, there is a bill going forward. It's stuck in conference committee. It's a bill designated around bullying and also dealing with cyberbullying. I believe that bill should go forward, and it has the teeth that we need. It gives administrators and superintendents the guidance and the tools that they need to enforce the law and get the point out there to the kids that if you're going to bully, if you're going to cyberbully, if you're going to harm the other students in the classroom, whether or not in the classroom or outside the classroom, that there's going to be a penalty, and you're going to know what that is.
It will be a first time where something like this could be enforced outside the school grounds.
This is correct. This is something that can be enforced outside the school grounds. It doesn't have to be at a school event. It just has to be related to kids within the school system, and that means going cyberbullying or something happens in a playground off school property. And this bill will give us the teeth that we need. And I suggest everybody out there contact the state senators that are out there and the state reps that are on the conference committee, because right now it is stuck in conference committee between it's arguments that they're having. Right now they're more concerned about casino bills and and other things, but they need to put our children first, and they need to put the arguments aside and get this bill pushed forward.
As you see it, how long might you be looking at such a bill that might happen? Are you talking about months or years?
Well, right now, it's probably going to be months. I think it's something that's definitely going to get passed this year, but right now, obviously the casino bill was their main priority, and now the budget's a main issue, so this is probably going to get tabled for a while. But I strongly recommend everybody out there to please contact the legislators that are on that conference committee to get them to stop fooling around, put the arguments aside, and get this bill enacted.
And another subject, traffic on Route 38. Care to comment on that? Because everybody drives Route 38, so...
Well, this is pretty much I guess for this town, a double-edged sword, because all cities and towns right now, they're all looking for growth, and they're looking for new sources of income. And the last thing you want to do is stifle businesses, and Route 38 is our main thoroughfare through town. Granted, we have developed a significant portion of it on North Wilmington up by Market Basket, which seems to be the center of all of that. But there's other portions of 38 and also 129 on the southern end of the town that could use some development. We could, broaden this out a little bit more, and hopefully maybe that will relieve some of the traffic.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Marchese. And I'm going to hand this back over to Studio A.
Thanks, Don. Thanks for having us. So let's talk about a couple of the other warrant articles. Number 12, raise funds for providing senior citizens work opportunities for service rendered to the town in accordance with town's senior citizen tax work-off program.
Right. Well, this is a discount that's been available to the seniors for some time now, and I believe that the town has approved this on several occasions in the past. I mean, it's a pretty standard thing in Wilmington. They certainly want to try and give the seniors as much of an opportunity to write off as much of their taxes as they can.
Yeah, it's pretty standard fare, but it's something that we really need to do. We need to take care of our townspeople.
It's also something to be pretty pleased with. I mean, a lot of towns don't have something like this, and it's everybody could use some help, and this is certainly helpful.
Another reason to make Wilmington such a great town.
That's it.
19, authorize the Board of Selectmen to enter into a 20-year extension with Reading Municipal Light.
I believe that we have been Reading Light Department's largest customer for many years now. Certainly the plan that we've had goes back more than 20 years, so I believe a 20-year extension is probably in order, especially since I'm of the opinion that Wilmington, as an individual customer, actually buys more electricity than Reading and all of their other customers combined. I think we have over 50% of their power, so it certainly makes sense for us to keep that in place as best we can, and keep the pricing down and do whatever we can do, and I trust the administrators of the town are doing the best.
Sure. Looks like we also have a few warrant articles this year from one of our more colorful residents, shall we say. And looking at...
You wouldn't be talking about Mr. McDonald.
Anyways, let me read this. Article 40, and this is to paraphrase warrant Article 40. Require town manager to post names of anyone who's receiving a pension from the town of Wilmington in addition to the salary that they are getting from the town. Notice will be in bold red lettering to allow the taxpayer of the town to determine if they are being gouged out of their tax dollars. Now that's right from the warrant article. Thoughts?
Well, as a political analyst, I suppose I would first say that there's two things going on. One is the concept, and one is the message. So the message is that we should be ever diligent about not being overcharged for the services that we get, and not letting people take advantage of a system. As far as the presentation of the message, I don't know that I would have worded it the same way, and I don't know that I would require as a town law that we put things in large red letters someplace. But I certainly understand the sentiment involved in trying to be a watchdog and make sure that the town taxpayers are not being overburdened unnecessarily.
Right. I mean, it is a valid point. If you're pulling a pension, should you be pulling a salary as well? And it is a valid point. And really, where tax dollars are so tight these days, if you know the pension is because you've retired. So if you're retired, why are you pulling a salary again?
I believe there was a fairly famous case in the press not too long ago about a mayor of Lawrence, and I don't want to mention any names, but this is certainly something that is very important to talk about.
And we shall continue to talk about it.
Very good.
After we go to Don back at Town Hall. Don?
Hello. We're going to be talking to Michael Newhouse up for re-election. How do you do, sir? How do you do, sir? A subject that's hot in Wilmington, the high school proposal to do a study to build or not to build.
Well, first of all, I think it's important that we do whatever we need to do in order to make an informed decision about the future of the high school in Wilmington. Certainly, to me, the article that's before town meeting is a no-brainer in that some certain deficiencies have been identified. They don't speak to the maintenance of the building. They don't speak to the quality of the teachers or the lessons. It really just goes to whether or not the building that exists, that was built back in the late 50s, can continue to serve the high school students in a way that we can be proud of. So the feasibility study, in my mind, is a no-brainer. That in itself will be 50% reimbursed, give or take.
Right.
And then we take the next step and figure out what's the best way to have the best high school we can.
If we build a high school, I hear so many times, how are we going to be able to afford that?
Well, it's kind of like running our own personal budgets. It seems like it's never a good time financially.
Right.
You know, you save, you work, you hard, you do the best you can, you try and put a little bit of money in the bank, and then when certain important things come up, you borrow to do it. You know, when the family car is just not going to drive anymore, then you go get another family car, and everybody hates to sign that note, but sometimes it's what you need to do.
Another subject a little more down to earth. Article 41 talks about to allow food pantry donations instead of library fines. What do you think?
I think the food pantry is just a wonderful service in this town, but I don't see any need to, have a steady income stream from the library fines to subsidize that. Again, the food pantry is a terrific community service. The people have done a fantastic job over the years, but that the library fines are there to provide a disincentive for people to keep books for too long, and that's well-needed funds for the library as well to continue to offer the services they provide.
Because what I was hearing people talk about is if bringing canned goods instead of money, and sometimes that might work.
Well, on occasion that's been done, and I think that's a fine idea once in a while, but the fact of the matter is that some folks abuse their library privileges, and frankly, for them to, pull some cans out of the closet is not necessarily the right disincentive for them to abuse the privilege. So I just don't think it's something that ought to be done as a matter of practice.
Very good. Another article up for is the Senior Citizen Work-Off Program. I have a little white hair, and I'm probably going to be there sometime
Well,
soon.
that's more than I can say, but I think it's a terrific program. It was started, to my recollection, back in 1995 or 96. If I remember right, then Selectman Diane Allen brought that forward, and I think it's a program that has worked very well. I think there's a number of folks who take advantage of it, and it's the kind of thing where you get some great talent. We've had people over the years who are working as part of that program, and they've become an integral part of operations at Town Hall for a certain amount of time. So it's a great program. I don't expect any objection to it, and I'd think a unanimous vote.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you
Newhouse.
for your time.
And we'll,
Appreciate it.
and we'll be going back to WCTV.
All right, thanks again, Don. It's now about 6 minutes past 8 o'clock. Polls have been closed, so hopefully you got your chance to have your voice heard. I'd like to take the show in a little bit of a different direction now. There's a couple of bills in the state, down at the State House right now. One of them is the casino bill.
Yes.
It's looking like the House passed the casino bill with allowing slots in existing racetracks, but it doesn't look like the Senate may go that way.
I thought I was a Wilmington political analyst, not necessarily the
You are
Beacon
a
Hill
politi-
political analyst.
You're
Yes, okay.
a political analyst on the Wilmington Show.
There you go. Very good. I believe that this has come up before on Beacon Hill, and sometimes it seems almost who brought it up. The concept has been around for a long time. There's been minor changes to it. The biggest controversy right now, I believe, would be whether or not it would go out to bid, not so much whether or not it should be done. I think there's some effort in trying to get it done quickly so that the revenue stream starts to flow faster, because there's other revenue streams that are drying up. So I can see both sides of the argument on it. I don't think the argument has changed substantially from the last time it was defeated. So whatever the people had as a problem with the last bill might conceivably have the problem with it this time. There is a new Speaker of the House, however, so it went through on that side without too much of a problem. It's his district. I think he wants to look out for his people as best he can, and that's admirable, at least on that level.
Well, you know, in today's economic climate, it will free up a lot of jobs right away, immediately. Right from the purchase of the land will help out certain communities. The design teams that are going to be involved in such large-scale construction projects, and then the construction workers themselves. So it looks like there could be some immediate relief to an industry that's been hit so hard.
If it all works as well as designed. You know, the problem with a bill like this is that, you know, 10 years ago when a bill like this is proposed, and lots of people have a rosier outlook on the economic environment, they might be more willing to gamble, literally, with some of their money. I'm not so sure about how lucrative it would be in a case now. I think people are a lot more guarded, a lot more conservative with their dollars.
Well, some valid points, and there's going to be a lot.
There's a give and take on both of them.
There is a lot of talking down at Town Hall, and down at City Hall, rather, and in the State House, and there's a lot to be figured out. Okay, so it looks like Dawn is ready for us with another interview down at Town Hall. Dawn?
We are back. With me is Peggy Keynes. She's a school committee person and a chairman, and up for re-election. And somebody turn that down. Thank you. Can we talk about the new high school?
Absolutely. I think the message I would like to get across about the new high school is that we are never, ever going to see this gift that we've been offered, in a sense. The fact that the state is working with us, and that when we do, if we as a town decide to go forward with the feasibility study and with a new high school or a renovation, the state will be working with us, and the money that they'll be reimbursing us, at least half of what we will be spending. We would never see that opportunity again, because if we reject it, we go to the back of the line under the other 200 plus communities. And the chances of it coming up anytime too soon would be like nothing.
I mean, I go to the food store and I hear people talking still. How are we going to pay for it? How are we going to pay for it? Any comments?
I know, and I have to say that I am now a senior citizen in some areas. Not quite 65, but I'm in there, and I'm on a fixed income, I'm retired, and it makes me stop and think, how much can I afford in taxes? But on the other hand, I have 2 grandchildren who live in town, and I look at their education and to see them as they're learning, as they go through the school system, and I feel strongly that we owe it to them. So I'm willing to give up a couple of dinners a month to be able to do this. So.
Something else you'd like to talk about is the school committee itself.
I just want to mention on the school committee, this is going to be a very interesting year for me in particular. I'm going to be the person with the most experience on the school committee, this being the third time I've run, 6 years. And we'll have 2 brand new members. A couple of members have only been on for 2 years, 1 and 2 years. And so it's a great time for the school committee to grow and to work with our superintendent, who has a vision for us. This town is so lucky to have this superintendent. I cannot say that enough. She was even chosen with Christine McGrath to speak at an educational Women in Education Leadership Conference this past Friday. So her name is getting out in the state as well as Wilmington. And the direction that she gives to the school committee is really important.
One other topic you may want to comment on is cyberbullying.
Cyberbullying for me is, I'm one of those people who I do not want to get on Facebook. People keep trying to get me to go to LinkNets or something. I'm just not doing any of that. It makes me nervous. I don't want to go there. So when the children are so blasé about this, I don't think they understand the consequences at all, which is why when we're looking at our bullying policy, I believe that we have to be careful with the consequences we're going to be attributing to these children, because they are children after all. But on the other hand, I think there's more than cyberbullying going on. Bullying starts in kindergarten, starts in your neighborhood. Parents have to be on the alert for it. And then we have to watch ourselves as adults. Do we engage in bullying? Only we don't call it bullying. So, I mean, I think there's a lot to think about, and it's a great discussion to have. And we're going to be voting on the policy within the month. So, very important.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, and
Thank
thank you, WCTV, for
Yes.
having us. Thank you very much.
WCTV, I guess they want us back to the studio.
Thanks, Don, and we are back. Right now, I'd like to talk about bullying. It is a hot topic. It's being talked about at the state level and obviously at the local level. Local level all over the state. There's been some very, very serious incidents lately in the news, unfortunate, horrible incidents. And it's something that we've all grown up with. Some people really don't understand how damaging it can be, because you remember what it was like when you were a kid walking down the halls and the big guy knocked the books out of your hand, and boy, that happened a lot, right?
Well,
You
I
weren't
don't
always
know
the
about
big
that.
guy in school, were you?
No, I wasn't always
No.
the big guy in school.
Neither was
but
I.
There you go. I think everyone brings their own personal experience to it. The problem that I see with this is that as much as things are the same, they're very different. The technology has really opened up and made large communities out of very separate communities. What used to be, when we were growing up, I mean, I knew every street on the house. I knew everybody in every house. I knew all the kids in the school. Even though I grew up in a school good size, you still knew most of the players, and most of the players knew of each other, and everybody, the towns were smaller. But now with cyber, with Facebook and a lot of the internet and all that, and the kids being very, very familiar with this, I don't think they realize just how broad a reach these things have.
Well,
And
that's just the point. When we were in school, when you went home for the day, you went home, you got away from it. The kids can't get away from it today,
Right.
because of the cell phones, the IM, the Facebook, all the
and
internet.
it even goes beyond just the simple technology. The cell phones have the internet on them. The internet you can make phone calls from. I mean, everything is interconnected to the point where even if you wanted to get away, you can't get away. And kids are it's a time in their lives when they're really exploring their social networks, and they don't want to get away, and they don't realize that other people can kind of peer into their little network without knowing. It used to be that we had cliques in school, and if you were an outsider in that clique, everybody could see you, everybody knew you were there, and whether it was good or bad, it's kind of self-policed a little bit. Now, anybody can lurk anywhere they want, and you wind up finding out all kinds of interesting things, and it goes well beyond kids in school.
Yeah, that's the other thing too, is back then we knew who the bully was, and
Exactly.
it could be so anonymous these days that you just have no idea who the bully really is. So it's very serious discussions going on all over the state, at the state and local levels, and we need to take it seriously, very seriously. And it looks like we're going to go back to Town Hall right now, and Dawn has Representative Jim Maselli.
Yes, I do. And Jim Maselli, we would like to ask you if you can shed some light on the added, the change, the additions to the amendment to change Prop 2.5.
I look at that as probably the most controversial item that we've had in some time. I'll tell you where I stand on it. I'm going to vote against it, obviously. And I think if you look at the history of my voting, I voted against the sales tax increase. I voted against the tax on liquor. And I've had a pretty good conservative record. And that would be a personal affront as far as the Prop 2.5 is concerned. Now, the chairman of Ways and Means, who's a good friend, has taken a defensive posture on it and said that we're misreading it. But, you know, Barbara Anderson reads it the same as I do, and Minority Leader Jones reads it the same way. And the Speaker has said, why don't we sit down next week, because next week we now address the budget. And that'll be a full, intensive week of going over that budget item by item, and that's one of the items that are in there. If it stays the way it is, and the way I'm reading it, and I think I'm reading it correctly, I intend to vote against it. And I think there'll be a lot of folks in the chamber who will cast a negative vote on it, because it is a personal attack on Prop 2.5 by the legislature.
Prop 2.5 will, and anything to do with it would affect the high school project if it ever comes.
It would affect everything. If there's to be a change on Prop 2.5, it has to come from the public. They have to decide they want to change it. It's not the legislature who would deem it and put it right out on the deck and say, this is the change we're putting through. And unfortunately, there are people who would put, as someone once said, slap a tax on a galloping horse. And, you know, in this situation, this was meant, the overlay account was meant to serve one purpose, and that's what it should be there for, and that's to allay and take care of tax abatements.
And Article 10, to build a new high school, care to comment on that?
I'd be in favor of it. And you know what's nice about it? The public's going to decide on that, too.
Right.
They make the ultimate decision. And the reason why I'd be in favor of it, the account that funds the reimbursements was depleted a few years ago. And I think in the future, and I'm not trying to scare anyone, I think in the future, this account is going to run out of money. And whether or not the legislature decides to fund it, I know it's tied to a revenue stream, but whether or not the legislature decides to fund it, or the authority to ask for the incentive to fund it, is another story. But right now, the money is there, and it's taxpayers' money. It's not something that anyone is giving anyone. The money has come from the folks who pay the bills. They have to decide, but personally, I'm in favor of it. Although the school's been well-maintained, we've outgrown it, and change has to be made. So to answer it directly, I do support it.
Okay. And another subject, bullying, cyberbullying.
Yeah. Talk about the whole bullying picture. As far as the bullying picture is concerned, the thing that spurred action, that got everyone moving, was what happened out in South Hadley, which was an atrocious situation. Although they say a lot of cyberbullying wasn't involved in that situation, that's what spurred the legislature on, that's what spurred the public on. That was a travesty. That never should have happened. And, you know, people are passing the blame around. And a lot of the blame does belong with the school officials. The bill we put through addresses cyberbullying. It addresses direct bullying, such as this situation. And I'll say it again, long overdue. It's in conference committee now, but let me tell you how conference committees really work. You know, for someone to say that's being dragged out for months and months, that's not actually true. I've had the privilege of serving on 2 conference committees. You can reach an agreement. It's like anything else. We've got the House version and the Senate version. I happen to think, and the public does too, that the House version is much better. You try to resolve your differences. And that could come Monday. I checked 5 o'clock Friday afternoon. Still hadn't been resolved. It could come Monday. It could come 2 weeks from Monday. And when it comes out there, it's put before the legislature, the House and the Senate, and you vote a conference committee report either up or down after the members have signed off. Who plays an important role in this? People behind the scenes, Senate President and the Speaker. They're in the background there suggesting, and I think I'm using a very mild word, and as to where this should go. But it won't be drawn out for weeks and weeks. I can't believe that this thing would go months. There's a hue and cry to resolve that issue, and I think that's going to come very soon. Although, you know, the effective date is a ways off.
And on a lighter note, the traffic on Route 38.
Traffic on Route 38.
You drive the
Someone once ran a political ad, and the ad said, Route 38 is becoming a red light district, and they were talking about taillights. And let me just say this, that there's no immediate solution to that. As I say, the local officials are trying to strike a balance here, and the balance they're trying to strike is between revenue growth and taking care of the traffic problem. Anything we add right now without taking some dramatic action is going to add to the situation. Right now, you talk about traffic. If you're coming up Route 62, you're coming from the post office, every so often we try to tweak the timing of those lights, and we just, you know, you just can't get it right. It works for a while, then it has to be changed again. But the only thing that's going to resolve that problem, and I don't want to use the word study because it's been studied to death, is we're going to have to sit down, state, town, take some dramatic action relative to, I don't want to say the word, widening, something of that nature. But it's just going to continue to get worse.
Or
The only place where it's worse is in Tewksbury.
plan your trip earlier.
Yeah.
Tewksbury. Thank you, Mr. Maselli. And I
Aren't you
think
going to ask me about casino gambling?
casino gambling. Let's go.
Right on you, okay. Let me tell you where that came from. Did the speaker have anything to do with it? Absolutely. Did I have any conversations with the speaker? Never. Did I have any conversations with any chairman on it? Never. Made up my own mind. A few years ago, wouldn't vote for it. In these times, the jobs, once you put a paycheck in someone's hand, you really stimulate the economy. You help stimulate the economy. And you really do something for that individual. This is the thing, one thing at hand right now that will do that. The construction jobs, and that's down the road, the construction jobs will be there, and there will be at least 5,000, and this will spur on the economy. In the slot machines, and that's the one thing no one wants to talk about, at the racetracks, I voted to put that out to bid. I don't feel it should go to the racetracks. I feel anyone who has the wherewithal, the facilities, should be able to bid on it. But unfortunately, the bill says racetracks. What that does, though, it saves 800 jobs and puts more money into the economy. And as the senior citizens keep saying to me, why do we have to drive to Connecticut? So that's something that has to be considered also. Yeah. And it's been a pleasure being here tonight.
And thank you, sir.
One of my favorite stations, and keep up the good work.
We shall. Okay, back to Studio A.
All right, thanks, Don. That was well, that was a lot of information from Rep. Maselli. So let's talk about this Prop 2.5. I don't know if you can call it an override, but they're calling it the Municipal Relief Bill.
Yes. Well, I think what they're doing is they're trying to say that by allowing the towns to raise the taxes above the 2.5, that they're going to be able to make up for some of the local aid, some of the other things that the state has cut. You know, the towns need operating funds. I agree, but I think the taxpayers also need relief from higher taxes. So I'd be hard pressed to make a prediction on this one or to decide which way it should go without reading all the details.
No more segue bets on the...
No more segue bets on this one. No, not that one.
No. All right. Well, I agree. I mean, you can only tax the people so many times, and when they raised our income tax, instead of lowering it like we voted to lower it,
right.
that was a slap in the face, and I'm glad to see that we're getting some support at the State House on this. Route 38 traffic. How do you feel about that?
Well, I'll be honest with you, it's getting more and more busy, but then again, it helps the tax base, so I have very mixed feelings about it. Of course, I don't live right there, so that makes a huge difference too, if I had to travel through it every single day instead of when I want to go through it. But I will say that there's a particular restaurant that just recently opened up, and everyone was afraid there was going to be lines down the road forever and ever and ever, and I really say that they've had a police detail out there, and I thought they've done a pretty good job of keeping everything flowing and having a minimal impact with that. But there's still more business going on. There's more building, and I'll be honest with you, I think it's good for the town. I know it changes the character a little bit less bedroom, a little bit more widespread, but at the same time, I think it's good.
The new restaurant, I think it's great for the town because there's a lot of young people working there, you know? I mean, these kids in high school that just couldn't get jobs last year because there weren't any, it's a perfect job for them. You know, they work a few hours, make a couple of bucks, get a couple of tips, hopefully, and I think it's great. And you have to admit that whole section of Main Street does look a heck of a lot better than it did just even a few years ago.
I agree. And I will say, I was at the selectmen's meeting when the owner of that particular restaurant was working on his permit, and he said there's actually no discrimination with the young people. They can either use inline skates or standard four-wheel skates.
That's good, because that was a serious concern of mine, you know.
There you go.
Well, it looks like we're ready to go back to Town Hall for the live results of today's election. I know everyone's on the edge of their seat, so let's go back to Don, and he should have the town clerk with him.
Yes, we do. And right now, Sharon George is going to read the results.
Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The polls closed just about a half an hour ago, and I'd like to read the results of the annual town election for April 24th, 2010. For Selectmen, Louis Maglia IV, 1,388. Michael Newhouse, 1,332. Daniel Murphy, 206. Mark Nelson, 260. For School Committee, Margaret A. Kane, 1,274. Kathleen Carroll, 1,132. Robert Hayes, 1,066. For Housing Authority for 5 years, Leona Bombard, 1,227. For Housing Authority for an unexpired term, Stacy Murphy, 1,235. For the Shawshene Vocational Technical School Committee, Robert G. Peterson, 1,402. I'd like to thank everyone that participated in the election today. I would like to thank my staff, Carolyn Kenny and Phyllis Vieira, and all of the custodians at the polling places. They were wonderful today, keeping everything moving. Public Buildings for all their hard work in setting up, DPW, and all the police details today. And thank everyone here for coming. It's been a good day. Our total votes cast was 1,741, which I'm very pleased. We tripled our last year's total, and we had a 12% total of the 15,299 registered voters in Wilmington. So I feel very pleased today that we did above 10%. So thank you all very much. And congratulations to the winners. And if they would come up, we will have the swearing-in ceremony. I will do the Board of Selectmen first, then the School Committee, Housing Authority, and Vocational High School. So if the School Committee, if the Board of Selectmen winners could come forward, Mr. Newhouse and Mr. Samaglia. Okay, and if you would raise your right hand. The oath is given in accordance with Chapter 41 of the Mass General Laws. After I say your name at the end, say I do, please. I do solemnly swear that I will faithfully and impartially and to the best of my ability perform the duties imposed upon me as an elected official as a Board of Selectmen for the town of Wilmington according to the bylaws of the town, the laws of the Commonwealth, and the Constitution of the United States, so help you God.
I do.
Okay, congratulations. Okay, congratulations. Okay, and now, if we could have the School Committee come up. Okay. And Robert Hayes couldn't be here tonight because he's out of town, but he will come in at an alternate time to be sworn in. Ladies, congratulations. Raise your right hand. In accordance with Chapter 41 of the Massachusetts General Laws, after I say your name, at the end say I do. I do solemnly swear that I will faithfully and impartially and to the best of my ability perform the duties imposed upon me as an elected official of the School Committee within the laws of the bylaws of the town of Wilmington, the laws of the Commonwealth, and the Constitution of the United States, so help you God. I do. Congratulations to both of you. Congratulations. And now if we could have the ladies for the Housing Authority. Congratulations to both of you. Raise your right hand. Within the chapter, in accordance with the Chapter 41 of the Massachusetts General Laws, after I say your name, at the end say I do. I do solemnly swear that I will faithfully and impartially and to the best of my ability perform my duties as an elected official of the Housing Authority within the bylaws of the town of Wilmington, the laws of the Commonwealth, and the Constitution of the United States, so help you God. Very good. Congratulations, ladies. Very good. And thank you all very much for coming tonight.
And now we're going to go back to Studio A.
All right, Dawn, thanks. First off, I'd like to say I apologize to Stacy Murphy for missing your name earlier tonight when I was talking about the Housing Authority. So, Stacy, congratulations. Congratulations to everyone else that that competed today. I know it takes a lot to put your name out there and go get the signatures and you know, put yourself on the line for one of the offices in town. So, congratulations to everyone who participated. So, if we go down the line, we can start with the selectmen. The two winners of the selectmen.
Yes. Both incumbents were reelected, handily, it seems, from the numbers.
Yeah, great turnout, 12%, 1,741. That's great. So hopefully we can get some big numbers at town meeting next week as well.
Sounds good.
Yeah, yeah. So
there's no upset in the school committee. It seems that the three people that ran also were elected.
yes, they were. The two for the Housing Authority.
And surprisingly, both of them were elected, yes.
And
Mr. Peterson.
oh, so here we are. So the
here
Board
we
of
go.
Selectmen. As we see, Michael Newhouse, 1,332 votes. Louis Semeglia, 1,388 votes. Those are your two winners.
And incumbents as well. That's
And incumbents as well. Correct.
Very good. Do we have another graphic? There it is.
And here we go. And for the school committee, we have Margaret Kane, Robert Hayes, and Kathleen Carroll, all over 1,000 votes each. So congratulations. And for the Housing Authority, the two ladies, Leona Bombard and Stacy Murphy. And for the Shawshene Tech, in a surprising upset, Robert Peterson.
Good for you, Mr. Peterson.
Congratulations to everyone, again, that participated. What else? What else is there? Oh, wait a minute.
Oh,
what is
there we
this?
go. We have a bet to resolve.
We did have a bet. We did have a bet. And it looks like new clay.
There's two names on there.
Can you
The
see
first
that?
is New for Newhouse, and the second is Semeglia.
That's.
Although I abbreviated both names.
I'm gonna claim the illegible writing, so we're gonna call this one a draw. Because for
You
some
will
reason,
be on a
for some
Segway
reason,
and a
I know you
sombrero
have like a
someday
big
soon.
pink boa hat or something like that. So I'm
It's
gonna,
a giant sombrero I have in mind.
I'm okay with that. But so, anyways, congratulations for that.
Very good.
Thank you very much for being here tonight. I appreciate your insight and your comments on what's going on.
We want to remind everyone to make yourselves known at the town meeting next week.
Absolutely.
It's very important that you get to the high school and
High School
definitely.
Gymnasium, 10:30 in the morning. Please be there. Please be there on time. If not, a little bit early. Get yourself a good seat. Let your voice be heard.
There's important issues for the town to resolve on these in the warrant, and the warrant should have arrived in everyone's mailbox by now.
If not, I know you can get a copy of it online or go right down to Town Hall. There will be copies available as you're checking in to get into the town meeting as well. All right?
Very
And we'd like to thank Dawn down at Town Hall. Dawn, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you to the town clerk and everyone here at WCTV. Thanks for joining us tonight, folks. Have a good night.
Have a good evening.